working for a government department just before COVID happened, and as a care provider. And one of the staff in the house asked this question. Closer?
Yeah, that's right.
Here we go. Asked this question: what is going on in the world? This is when all the lockdowns were starting to happen, and I think it's a fair assumption to say that, you know, anyone in their sane mind would start to think that the world's got lots of problems, and it's certainly not all rosy, and there's major changes needed. I mean, most people would be aware of that, but then you have to watch the evening news. An interesting quote by Ellen White: "We are living in the end of time. The fast-flowing signs of the times declare that the coming of Christ is at hand. The days in which we live are solemn and important. The Spirit of God is gradually but surely being withdrawn from the earth. Plagues and judgments are already falling upon the despisers of the grace of God. The calamities by land and sea, the unsettled state of society, the alarms of war are portentous. They forecast approaching events of the greatest magnitude. The agencies of evil are combining their forces and consolidating. They are strengthening for the last great crisis. Great changes are soon to take place in our world, and the final events will be rapid ones." Okay, anyone with their eyes and ears open realises that things are speeding up in our world, aren't they? I feel that time just gets faster and faster, and the years just slip by faster and faster. It's not only Adventists that are thinking that. You know, Jesus' disciples asked him for about signs of the times, signs of the end and of his coming. There's not a crackling coming through this. Can I switch over to just a normal standard microphone? Can I just go on with this? There's a lot of crackling coming through it.
How's that?
Use this one? Yeah. I'll just keep going with this one. Okay, if you've ever read Matthew 24, there's a lot in there about the signs of the times. There's a lot, and things are speeding up. Go home and read Matthew 24, and it's not exactly a happy time. And many people ask the question, will we wipe ourselves off the planet? You know, there's the war in Ukraine. It's been going on. It actually started in 2014. Got much worse since 2022 when Russia invaded. And I think the death toll by now is over 1 million. And there seems to be getting nowhere. They've just entered their 4th year of that war, and the battle line just goes backwards and forwards as to who's got many bombs and so forth. We've seen the war in Gaza, been going on 2 years. It's killed 50,000 people. Supposedly they're all having a ceasefire at the moment. Some people are saying the war is over, but time will see. Time will tell. And there's other things like the ID threat, that digital ID threat, that is working with a cashless society. You know, everyone's got to have a social number or whatever it is. Many people are opposing it. It's said to be compulsory, voluntary, but of course with all things like that, it won't be long before it's compulsory worldwide. They call it function creep, where it's adopted by one group and then someone else puts their hand up, oh, why don't we use that? And everyone else jumps on board. It's called function creep. Not that this is a Sunday law, but it's purely a vehicle by which something like that could force compliance on societies. Been following the political unrest in the UK lately. They're tearing themselves apart. Some have even suggested that the UK is on the verge of civil war. I don't know what's happening recently. I haven't been able to chase the news, but all is not well over there. And then we have the LGBTQ blah 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 issues, males in female spaces. And then we have the failure of governments to be able to even define what a woman is. It's sort of strange, isn't it? But somehow it tells me that there's more to this issue than meets the eye. Something deep inside says that these mixed up people are just pawns in someone else's argument, that they're meeting in another sandwich, and pawns in a much bigger game. We've also got the abortion debate, which is a very hot topic. And some places are making a lot of noise about it and wanting to make it an election issue. And there's food security. How long would it take to create a chaos in which all food chains dry up? A week or two maybe? Remember back in COVID times, that certain substance called toilet paper disappeared from Woolworths shelf almost overnight. I remember some guy on the side of the highway somewhere, might have been down the Gold Coast, secured himself a pallet of toilet paper, and he was trying to flog $5 a roll. I don't know how many customers he had, but entrepreneurial. Yeah. So, and there's an inheritance tax in the UK which has been making a lot of noise lately. They caused a farmers' revolt because they were going to say that it now applied to all farmland as well as small allotments like houses. And of course, it was 20%. You know, if Dad dies and you inherit the farm, the property itself might be worth millions. How are you going to pay 20% of that as tax? I think they've backed down on that now because almost every farmer in the UK drove his tractor into Parliament House in London, and they just blockaded the whole place, and it caused quite a stir. What about immigration and population growth? It seems we're bursting at the seams. You can only absorb so many people into your country. It would be different if we had heaps of empty houses and heaps of jobs going around. But immigration has been a sore point lately, and you only have to drive past a lot of parks these days to see some tents. There's one not too far from where we live, and it's just a sea of tents. Tent city, and it's not the only one around. Of course, the old rule of supply and demand, that if you've got one house up for rent and 10 people wanting to rent it, if the average rent is, let's say $500 a week, if someone could come along and say, I'll give the landlord $580 a week, well, guess who wins the house? And yeah, that's one of the 10 cities. There's one near our place. We also see papal claims for unity, and also the ending of fundamentalism, which, if you can read between the lines, you know where he's going. There's a huge push for renewable energy. Solar and wind seem to be the flavour of the month. But if you listen to the news, you'll be quite aware of the big failure of renewable energy in Spain. what happened there. Some fuse blew somewhere in the country, and it caused a ripple effect right through the whole country, and all the lights went out. It was 24 hours before they got everything going again. And it was only because of being able to import power down in from France that they were able to get it going. And following the Japanese experience with the tsunami, Germany shut down all their nuclear power plants. They had quite a few. Well, you can't take out your base load if you've got nothing to replace it with, and they've wasted $500 billion trying to get alternatives up and running. So the problem with the Japanese nuclear reactor was it was right on the coastline, only a few metres above the shore, and they didn't bother to put the backup generators on the roof. And when the wave came along, it swamped the generators and blah, blah, blah. That was the end of that. We see the social media bans which have come in Australia. Somehow, something tells me that there's a different agenda in there. It could be more about forcing people to conform. I don't know. What do people think? Is it not the parents' responsibility to monitor what their children do? Somehow I don't think it's the government's job to monitor what your children see. The parents were given charge over their children. And one might almost ask the question, do your children or young children even need a phone? You see 8-year-olds that have their own phone, or 10-year-olds, what do they need a phone for? Yeah, anyway, we could go off on a tangent, hey? Then there's the increasing polarisation of American politics. It's far left and far right nowadays, and there's not much middle ground. It's almost like the country is splitting in two. And there's no middle ground, there's no middle voter. Now, what about media bias? Do you think they're biased at times?
All the time.
All the time? When was the last time you had a healthy debate on climate change? It's just taken as a given, that it's happening, it's real, it's true, and so forth. And the Australian media is incredibly biased, particularly on the subject of evolution. Have you ever heard the creation theory get a word in sideways? It's not allowed. Yeah, it suits the agenda. The bias, and there's only one outlander. Then there's increasing nationalism. You see it all over the world. It's happening here in Australia. If you've been watching the news lately and watching the stats, you'll have noticed that one party is surging. Which one is it?
One Nation.
One Nation? Yeah. Nationalism. All for
Me.
Australia and Australia only.
Yeah, preach it, brother.
And everyone else is losing ground to them. Where it goes, I don't know. Is it a good thing? I don't know. Is it a bad thing? Time will tell. But that's not the subject of my sermon. What about terrorism? We've seen terrorism come to our own shores. What's going to happen there? I don't know. The government is suggesting all sorts of goals, or solutions rather. There's been plenty of criticism regarding the planned changes and whether they'll achieve what they're designed to. What about religious tension? It seems to be everywhere. The Muslims and the Jews certainly aren't the best of friends at the moment. And what about religion? is it a power for peace or does it cause conflicts? You could ask that question. And the genocide in Nigeria, it gets largely ignored. There's thousands and thousands of Christians in Nigeria that are being absolutely slaughtered. And there's very, very little mention of them in the mainstream media. As if, it's almost as if they don't really matter. But the media is certainly biased, and then there's the same thing that's happening by and large in South Africa. White farmers driven off their land and killed. There's other issues like the social credit system in China. I watched a documentary some time ago now of, it was made by a Frenchman, but he's married to a Chinese lady, and I think they both lived in Beijing. And he did the documentary on his wife's interaction with the social credit system and how it controlled her life. And she was quite happy with it. She'd accepted it, and it didn't particularly worry her. And he was showing it like that. So could it be a worldwide thing, you could ask? Well, there's not many churches anymore that teach that Rome is the beast of Revelation. It used to be pretty well all of the Protestant churches. If you look back through history, even Martin Luther came to that conclusion, and he was a Roman Catholic, that the Catholic system is the beast of Revelation, and he wanted to reform them, but unfortunately it didn't work, and he had to leave and start the Lutheran Church. But pretty well all of the Protestant denominations have dumped that idea. This guy, I didn't even know he existed until someone put a bullet through him, Charlie Kirk. It seems that it stirred up a lot of emotions, and now his book has come to the front on the Sabbath. But I must admit I haven't read it, but I have heard rumours that it's not all that interested in the seventh day Sabbath, and it could be read in the wrong way to promote a Sunday worship. I'll have to get a copy of the book and read it really. Heard of a Green Sunday? No. There's a lot of noise about Green Sundays. Turning the lights off for a day or so forth, and it's another beast rising to the front. Turn everything off for a day and help save the planet, all that sort of thing. Try turning off a coal-fired generator for 24 hours. It doesn't work. A boiler that is twice the size of this building, it takes 2 days to get them hot. Let alone, how do you turn off a machine that big? It's going to do more damage than it could do good. So, and then we have the growing Catholic influence, the calls for Sunday prominence. Some form of Sunday legislation may not be all that far away. Just recently we saw the US taking over, or not taking over, but taking captive the president of Venezuela. It's almost like a lamb acting as a dragon. Just march right into a country, arrest their leader, fly them out on a helicopter. No one stands in your way. A lot of people are thinking this is setting a very, very dangerous precedent. No rule of law. Do what you want. Who's going to stand in your way? I mean, they are the biggest military in the world. People living in Greenland, well, they're very worried. The same as those in Canada, they think they might be next. And Colombia, everyone's a bit worried that they might not stop at Venezuela. And to cap it off, they seized 2 oil tankers were full of Venezuelan oil, and one of them happened to be a Russian ship. I don't know what happened there. It was bound for Russia, and the oil certainly didn't make it there. Revelation 13:11 says, I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, yet he spoke as a dragon. Have you heard of a lamb speaking lately, or a dragon in American politics? They're certainly starting to do a lot of saber rattling, that you sit down, behave, or we'll wipe you out type stuff. They're sounding more and more like a dragon. Okay, so things are really picking up speed. The events in the last few years, maybe 10 years, who amongst us would have been able to predict all of these events, 30 years back? And yet, the Bible, 2,500 years ago, you can see this all starting to fall into place like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. Things are winding up quickly. Ellen White said that things would be rapid at the end, picking up speed. Luke 21:28. And when these things begin to pass, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws nigh. Christ detailed out all the events of his coming, and it makes sense. It makes some pretty wild reading when combined with the book of Revelation. What kind of reactions can we have to all of this kind of stuff? Disgust, anger, surprise, fear, sadness. But what's the one at the top?
Joy.
Joy. Why? Because we know our Redeemer, don't we? These are just the nasty things that Jesus said would be happening. So the natural conclusion is, Christ was right. In my devotional time, some time ago, and I don't know why, I was drawn to Psalm 37. If you'd like to turn to Psalm 37, we're going to dig into that today, because I find it very, very interesting. And doing some research for this sermon, I opened up the computer and I typed in the words "fret not," because this is how verse 1 starts. Fret not. Where are we? Fret not yourself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious because of the workers of iniquity, for they shall soon be cut down like the grass and wither as the green herb. In the King James Bible, the phrase, or the 2 words, fret not, are found 4 times. Okay? 3 times in this psalm. And the last one is somewhere in the Proverbs. Okay. So, verse 1 and 2, fret not yourself because of evildoers, be not envious of the workers of evil. What is God saying here? I have things in control. Okay. Notice, they shall soon be cut down like grass and wither as the green herb. Now, several places throughout this this chapter, it says the evil ones will be cut down, they will not be found anymore. You'll go looking for them, but you won't be able to find them. And that describes what we call annihilationism. Now, annihilationism contrasts with the vastly held Christian belief of burning in hell for eternity. if you annihilate something, is there anything left? Right.
It's
It's
cool.
gone. And that is a huge reflection on the love of God. Because a hell that burns forever and ever and ever, and ever and ever and ever, depicts on the person doing the burning. You know? A couple of years here, like 50 years here of making a few mistakes and not making it to heaven. Are you going to pay an eternity burning in hell? What does that say about God? For yet a little while, this is verse 10, for yet a little while, and the wicked shall not be. Yea, thou shalt diligently consider his place, and it shall not be. You won't be able to find him. He's gone. But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace. Where have you read that first line before? Matthew 5? Meek shall inherit the earth. This is where Jesus got it from. If we come down further to verse 20, but the wicked shall perish, and the enemies of the Lord, like the splendour of the meadows, shall vanish. Into smoke they shall vanish away. Have you ever seen smoke from a fire? Something might billow up for a little while, and then it disperses and gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and it's gone. There's nothing left of it. It just disappears. Verse 35 and 6. I have seen the wicked in great power, and spreading himself like a native green tree. Yet he passed away, and behold, he was no more. Indeed, I sought him, but he could not be found. And verse 38. But the transgressors shall be destroyed altogether. The future of the wicked shall be cut off. So I think David had his theology correct, eh? That God is going to completely destroy, wipe them away, and there you have it. But on to some better stuff. Enough of the bad stuff, it's depressing. Let's look at some of the good stuff in Psalm 37. And it's not all that long, it's only 40 verses. If you want to go home this afternoon and read it, do it. Now I'm getting ahead of myself. Verse 11, the meek shall inherit the earth. Verse 18, the Lord knows the days of the upright, and their inheritance shall be forever. Verse 22, for such as be blessed by him shall inherit the earth, and they that shall be cursed shall be cut off. And then some good advice in verse 27. Depart from evil and do good, and dwell forevermore. David's making a distinction between good and evil, life and death. He says, leave evil alone and do good, and the result will be eternity and dwell forevermore. Verse 29, the righteous will inherit the land and dwell in it forever. Okay. How long's a ball of string?
Exactly.
As long as you want to make it. But can you always make a ball of string longer? Yeah. Tie a bit more on, and it gets longer and longer and longer. But you've still got, no matter how big your ball of string is, you could get all the balls of string in the entire world and tie them all together, and you'd have the biggest ball of string. It's still got a beginning and an end. But how long is forever? It's longer than the ball of string, isn't it? Yeah, live forever. That's a strange term. If we take it back to our Sabbath school lesson, You know, we have a beginning and an end. But here God is saying the righteous will have no end.
So there's no ending forever?
Forever. Can you define it? It's strange, isn't it? It's something to look forward to. Never stops. But that's hard to get your mind around, isn't it? But forever is forever. Okay. Ever been in a race? Not lately anyway. No. Now, a full marathon is 42 kilometres. And it takes about, for the person that's really fit and healthy and strong, about 4 1/4 to 4 3/4 hours to complete that marathon. Okay? Now, the Melbourne Cup is 2 miles or 3.2 kilometres, and it takes about 3 minutes for the horses to run that. Now, when they start racing on a marathon like this, there's not much yelling from the crowd, is there? There's a long way to go. Okay? What about at the end, though? You hear the crowd get louder and louder and louder, particularly the horses. There's not much yelling when the horses just leave that gate, is there? But the crowd gets louder as the distance to the finish line gets shorter. And it's just a crescendo as those horses nose by nose get almost to the finish line. And people do all sorts of silly things and scream and yell. You know, we're approaching that finish line. And I'm sure there's some angels up in heaven cheering for you and me. So keep going. Don't give up 10 minutes, 10 feet before the end of the line. It would be so disappointing. Christ said in Revelation 2:10, "Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give thee a crown of life." In Matthew 24:13, Jesus said, "He that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved." Now, in other words, he that makes the finishing line, the same shall be saved. What does the word "shall" mean? Will. Yeah. I can remember sitting in my TAFE classes years ago, doing my electrical, and the rule book, the electrical rule book, sometimes uses the word "shall." This particular thing shall have something else. And the teacher stopped for a minute and he asked, "What does the word "shall" mean?" The class went silent. I stuck up my hand and said, "Must." Okay. And he said, "Yes, spot on. This circuit must have a switch or something." So, does it mean maybe? Maybe saved? Might be saved? I'll think about it. I'll go away and think about it and think about it. Or I'll toss a dice and see if your number comes up. There's a chance that you might be saved. No. It says, "He that shall endure to the end shall be saved. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give you a crown of life." Okay, something nice to end on. And I'm sure you've read this paragraph before. It's the last paragraph in Great Controversy. The great controversy is ended. Sin and sinners are no more. The entire universe is clean. That's amazing, isn't it? The entire universe. One pulse of harmony and gladness beats through the vast creation. From him who created all flows life, light and gladness throughout the realms of illimitable space, from the minutest atom to the greatest world. all things animate and inanimate, in their unshadowed beauty and perfect joy, declare that God is love. So, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Endure unto the end, and you will be saved. Things are wrapping up. We don't quite know what's ahead of us. Maybe there'll be an economic crash next week, I don't know. But trust in the Lord, and He will save you. Thank you for your time and for listening. Our closing hymn is number 216. I haven't written down the title. I have it on page 1 back here somewhere.
They'll have it. They
I'll
know.
have it. Yeah, when the roll is called up yonder,
I'll be there.